Have you ever stopped to think about the black pepper you casually sprinkle on your pasta? Or the juicy slice of tomato in your sandwich? Or even that sweet, comforting bite of chocolate that melts in your mouth after a long day? These ingredients feel so familiar, so normal, that it's easy to forget they weren't always part of our everyday lives. In fact, not so long ago in human history, they were considered treasures. Literal treasures. Black pepper was once worth its weight in gold, tomatoes were feared and misunderstood in Europe, and cacao was used as currency by ancient civilizations. Today, they are pantry staples. But their journey to your plate is anything but ordinary. Because woven into the story of these ingredients is a much larger tale, one of bold ambition, perilous journeys across oceans, cultural collision, and the relentless human spirit of exploration. Behind every spoonful, there's a saga of empires rising and falling, trade routes being carved through treacherous waters, and culinary traditions being born from the sparks of cross-cultural encounters. In this episode, we're not just talking about food, we're diving into the age of explorers and how their relentless quests for wealth, spices, and new lands shaped not just the borders of the world, but also the flavors that define our cuisines. The journeys of these explorers didn't just change maps, they changed meals. They didn't just connect continents, they connected kitchens. And the culinary legacy they left behind, it's still sizzling in your frying pan. So buckle up, food history lovers. You're about to travel through time, across continents, and into the heart of how adventure and appetite came together to rewrite the recipe of human civilization. Welcome aboard, fellow time travelers and food history enthusiasts. Today, we set sail on a flavorful odyssey. One that stretches across continents, centuries, and cultures. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a journey through taste, ambition, and transformation. In this episode, we'll be retracing the daring footsteps and sea routes of some of the world's most iconic explorers. From the winding Silk Roads traveled by Marco Polo, to the transatlantic ventures of Christopher Columbus, from Ferdinand Magellan's circumnavigation of the globe, to the majestic armadas of Admiral Zheng He, these adventurers didn't just discover new lands, they helped create a global pantry. Imagine the spice-laden ships navigating the monsoon winds of the Indian Ocean, their wooden hulls packed tight with cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg. These weren't just aromatic luxuries, they were the reasons empires rose and fell. And on the other side of the world, the sugar plantations of the Caribbean and the Americas began to reshape diets, economies, and social structures alike. With every expedition, something new entered the global culinary conversation. Ingredients were exchanged, recipes evolved, and entire cuisines were forever transformed. These journeys were not just about finding treasure or claiming territory, they were about contact. Contact that led to exchange. Contact that gave birth to fusion. The bold, and often brutal, voyages of the past left behind more than trade routes. They planted the seeds of global cuisine. Even today, the echoes of those encounters are found in everything from a fiery Indian curry to a rich Italian tomato sauce. Because if we want to truly understand what's on our plates today, the flavors we crave, the ingredients we take for granted, the dishes we call ours, we must be willing to turn back the clock. We must follow the salt-stained maps, the merchant trails, and the cargo manifests of a different time. We must travel back and taste the past. Let's begin our journey with what might be the most aromatic arms race in history, the spice race. It was more than a pursuit of flavor. It was a global obsession that rewrote the very course of civilization. Picture this. In medieval and early modern Europe, spices like cloves, cinnamon, and nutmeg weren't just desirable, they were essential. They preserved food, masked the stench of decay, and were believed to hold medicinal, even mystical, powers. These tiny flavor bombs, grown in faraway islands like the Moluccas, also known as the Spice Islands, were treated with the reverence of royal jewels. European powers, hungry for wealth and dominance, launched fleets eastward into unknown waters. Portugal, Spain, the Dutch Republic, and later England, they all raced across the seas to tap directly into the source of these coveted goods. To them, spices weren't mere ingredients, they were currency. They were symbols of prestige and influence. In fact, a sack of nutmeg could fetch such a high price that it could fund an entire expedition, or purchase property in London. But here's the twist. While the West raced to claim the East's spices, other ingredients quietly made their way in the opposite direction. This was never a one-way street. Chili peppers, native to the Americas, traveled to India and Southeast Asia, where they were embraced so fully that it's hard to imagine traditional Indian or Thai cuisine without them today. Likewise, humble potatoes from the Andes ended up transforming the diets, and even the economies, of entire European nations like Ireland. This wasn't just a story of conquest and control. It was a cultural exchange, a culinary crossroads where continents collided and ingredients intermingled. Every cargo ship was a vessel of transformation, carrying not just goods, but ideas, flavors, and the roots of entirely new cuisines. The spice race, in all its intensity, was one of the earliest chapters in globalization, and its impact is still felt in every spice rack around the world. Christopher Columbus set sail in 1492 with dreams of reaching the rich spice markets of India. Spoiler alert, he never made it there. But in missing his mark, Columbus stumbled upon something arguably more transformative than the spices he sought. He unknowingly launched what would become one of the most significant and wide-reaching events in global food history, the Columbian Exchange. This wasn't just a trade route, it was a two-way bridge that forever altered the biological and culinary makeup of the world. From the Americas to Europe flowed a treasure trove of unfamiliar foods: vibrant red tomatoes, golden ears of corn, earthy potatoes, protein-rich beans, and the prized cacao bean, the heart of what we now cherish as chocolate. Europe had never seen these before, yet in time, they became deeply embedded in its cultural identity. Now pause and picture this for a second. Can you imagine Italian cuisine without tomatoes? No marinara, no pizza sauce, no pasta al pomodoro. It's almost unthinkable. Or what about Swiss chocolate without cacao? That silky smooth treat that defines an entire nation's brand, originated in the rainforests of Central and South America. These food pairings feel so natural now, so essential, that it's hard to believe they were once completely unknown to one side of the world. And it wasn't just one-way traffic. As tomatoes and cacao traveled east, Europe sent wheat, rice, onions, sugarcane, cattle, pigs, and horses westward. These introductions revolutionized the agriculture and diets of the Americas, laying the foundation for future farming economies and culinary traditions. But the Columbian Exchange was more than just a menu makeover, it was a collision of worlds. It brought transformation, yes, but also disruption, disease, and colonization. Yet, within this complex legacy, we find an undeniable truth. The foods we love today are the result of a chaotic, ambitious, and often unintended journey. So next time you bite into a slice of pizza or savor a piece of chocolate, remember, it's not just a snack. It's the legacy of explorers, of voyages gone wrong and right, of a world forever changed by what crossed the ocean. It wasn't just ingredients that sailed across the seas, ideas, methods, and rituals made the journey too. The age of exploration wasn't only about what people ate, but also how they cooked, served, and shared food. Explorers, merchants, and travelers became cultural couriers, transporting not just edible goods, but entire culinary philosophies. Take the humble wok, for instance. This ingeniously designed pan originated in ancient China, but it slowly began to influence kitchens far beyond Asia. Its versatility, stir-frying, steaming, deep-frying, fascinated Western chefs and home cooks alike, eventually earning a place in modern global cooking. It It's now just as likely to be found in a European or American kitchen as in a Chinese one. Or consider fermentation, a technique that might seem niche today, but was once revolutionary. The methods of preserving and enhancing food through fermentation spread like wildfire. Techniques for fermenting fish and vegetables traveled eastward and westward, influencing everything from Korean kimchi to Scandinavian pickled herring. Cultures adapted these techniques in their own unique ways, and suddenly, fermentation wasn't just about survival, it became an art form. And then there's tea and coffee, two simple beverages that quite literally grew global movements. Tea, with its meditative, ceremonial roots in China and Japan, made its way to Britain, where it sparked a full-blown national obsession and shaped entire social customs, from afternoon tea rituals to colonial trade empires. Meanwhile, coffee, born in the hills of Ethiopia and cultivated in Yemen, found its way through the Ottoman Empire to Europe, where it ignited a cafe culture that fueled revolutions, literature, and philosophical thought. These weren't mere drinks or tools or techniques, they were bridges. They crossed borders and reshaped identities. They united strangers over meals and created new traditions from old wisdom. So the next time you sip your morning coffee, or toss your veggies in a sizzling wok, remember, you're partaking in a legacy that was stirred and seasoned by the hands of explorers, passed down across oceans and generations. But as we savor the rich flavors of global cuisine and celebrate the marvels of culinary fusion, we must also pause and acknowledge a harder truth: this legacy didn't come without cost. Behind the exotic ingredients and elegant dishes lies a history steeped in struggle. Colonization, forced labor, exploitation, and displacement were bitter ingredients stirred into this global stew. The very same voyages that brought spices to European tables also brought conquest to native lands. Indigenous communities were uprooted, their agricultural systems disrupted or destroyed. Plantations, especially for sugar, coffee, and cacao, flourished, but often at the expense of human lives. Millions of enslaved Africans were transported across the Atlantic to toil in brutal conditions, cultivating crops that would sweeten European desserts and fuel imperial economies. This darker layer of food history is not just a footnote, it's essential to the full story. The richness of global cuisine was forged not only in the excitement of discovery, but also in the fires of oppression and resistance. Recognizing this complexity doesn't take away from the joy of a meal, it deepens it. It invites us to reflect on where our food comes from, whose hands helped create it, and how cultural traditions persisted even under unimaginable pressure. So when we enjoy a cup of tea, a bar of chocolate, or a spicy curry, we're not just consuming flavor, we're partaking in history. A history that includes not just explorers and empires, but also the resilience of cultures that endured, adapted, and enriched the world in the face of hardship. Understanding this context helps us appreciate food not only as nourishment, but as a tribute to the lives, traditions, and voices that continue to shape what's on our plates today. Here's a little challenge for you. Take a look around your kitchen. Seriously, open that spice rack, or peek into your pantry. What's one ingredient sitting there that you think you know, but maybe has a surprising story behind it? Maybe it's that jar of cinnamon, your go-to chili powder, or even that instant coffee you sip without a second thought. Drop it in the comments below, we'd love to hear what's hiding in your cupboards. Who knows? Your suggestion could be the star of a future episode. And if this journey through time and taste made you see your dinner plate a little differently, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more curious minds discover this channel. Better yet, share this video with a fellow food history enthusiast, because the more we learn about the past, the more we appreciate every bite in the present. Every bite we take, every flavor we savor, is part of a much larger story, a story that began centuries ago. It's a tale woven with the threads of bold explorers, mighty empires, and the boundless human curiosity that dared to cross oceans and defy borders. into your dish, or enjoy a square of chocolate, take a moment to reflect. You're tasting history. You're participating in a global journey that began on the decks of wooden ships, with fearless navigators who dared to imagine what lay beyond the horizon. They didn't just discover new lands, they discovered new flavors, new ways of living, and new bonds between cultures that are still alive and thriving today. So, keep exploring, keep asking questions, stay curious, and let food be your time machine. A way to travel not just across the world, but through time itself. And as you dive deeper into the rich history of food, always remember that every meal is a link in the chain of human experience. If you've enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe for more delicious tales from History's Kitchen. Every week, we'll bring you stories that inspire, educate, and entertain. Until next time, stay hungry for knowledge.